Hello, my name is Clark Mercer. I'm the Executive Director at the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. Welcome to our new video series, Collaboration in Action, where I get out into the DMV region to highlight the great work that our members and the partners are doing to make this a great region for everyone. And today we're diving into the critically important topic of roadway, pedestrian, and bicycle safety. So let's get to it. At COG, we coordinate the region's Street Smart bicycle and pedestrian safety campaign. We've also stood up a program providing funding for safer street design projects. I'll talk about these later in the episode. But first, I met up with our 2024 chair of the Transportation Planning Board at COG to talk about new actions the TPB is examining to make our streets safer. Here in Northeast DC with DC Councilmember Christina Henderson, who also chairs our Transportation Planning Board for the region. Christina, thanks for coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about the work that you've done both on council and also at TPB in terms of roadway safety in our region.
One of the things we really wanted to focus on was around traffic safety. To me, traffic safety is public safety, right? Child or their parents should be able to walk to the library or walk to the park without feeling that walking in the crosswalk is a dangerous activity or walking on the sidewalk is a dangerous activity. And frankly, much of our fatalities that we have, our roadway fatalities that we have here in the district are in low-income communities and communities of color. And so I think of it as an equity issue as well. I think it just is incumbent upon all of us to just think more about community when we're on our roads.
We're at this intersection. Recently, a few months ago, a 12-year-old girl going from her middle school to the public library,
Right.
following all the rules of the road, was struck by a vehicle, not obeying the rules of the road. And it turned out that that vehicle had $20,000 worth of fines and fees that had been unenforced because the district does not have ticket reciprocity with its neighbors. So what is ticket reciprocity and why is it so important that we work with neighbors throughout the region to get it?
So the district was one of the first in the region to sort of adopt automated traffic enforcement, which is a little bit different, right? There's reciprocity if, say, for instance, I'm driving in Virginia and I get pulled over by a sheriff for some sort of traffic violation. I have to pay that ticket and the district is going to hold me accountable for doing that. For automated traffic enforcement, our partners in the region have felt a little bit differently about that because the question is, can you prove who's driving? What has happened as a result over time is that there is no consequence to having that many tickets and still being able to either drive, renew your license, or renew your vehicle registration.
But just in a 6-month period in 22 to 23, there were almost 140,000 tickets coming out of Maryland that were unpaid, 85,000 coming out of Virginia, and in DC 60,000. But since 2000, there's been $1.7 billion of unpaid fines and fees. TPB had a safety summit a few weeks ago that you chaired and identified some areas where we really need to put some time and money behind bringing the region together. And this is one of them. What do we hope to accomplish over the next year with TPB?
Yeah, well, I think first is the biggest around communication. It turns out that some of our neighbors were not aware of the full extent of what we were dealing with here. And we have a lot of commuters who come through the city. Presumably somebody who's doing that here, going over 25 here, is doing that in the other jurisdictions and creating a safety hazard in those neighborhoods. So one of the things I hope that we can do, particularly in the next year, is get back to the table in this conversation about reciprocity, especially since other member jurisdictions are now starting to use automated traffic enforcement in their own towns and cities. There are so many synergies between our jurisdictions that this should be one of the things where we can lead by example. I want our national capital region to truly lead by example of a Vision Zero for the entire region.
All right, we're here with Heidi from the Virginia Department of Transportation. Heidi, thank you for being here. Definitely hear safety first from the governor and secretaries on down, and it's great to see it in action. We're here today kind of talking about some of the things that we're doing to bring this to the public so we can raise awareness. We've got these walking billboards, which look fantastic, and they will be throughout the region at intersections that are notable for pedestrian and bicycle safety. Tell me a little bit about that coordination with your partners in Maryland, the district, A little bit about enforcement and education working together.
Safety is a multi-pronged approach. Like you mentioned, enforcement, we rely on local and state enforcement partners to look out that people are driving safely, people are using the facilities correctly, obeying the traffic laws and signs. Not only through Street Smart do we help get consensus across the jurisdictions for the campaigns, but also working together as a region.
On the time you've been working on these campaigns, it seems like phones and social media and folks being distracted has probably continued to increase. And folks might ask kind of why we launch this campaign every year and do something a little bit different to get people's attention. Last year, 117 individuals lost their lives, pedestrians and bicyclists in this region. And that's 117 daughters, sons, wives. You know, that's like folks that are part of our community that should still be here who are simply walking or riding their bike. So tell us what we need to be doing to bring that number down.
We have seen, especially since the advent of probably smartphones, an increase in distraction. New technology presents new challenges, but also opportunities. We have new places to get traffic safety messages out via social media advertisements, via streaming television ads for this campaign. So it definitely is a challenge, and we're all competing for, you know, the eyeballs of everybody out there. But I think one of the things about this campaign is that it's one message, many voices, which makes it a little bit easier. When you see this message, when you're traveling throughout the various jurisdictions that all our citizens travel throughout for work, play, living, seeing the same message multiple times is necessary for it to stick. Look for people on the roads, along the roads, especially in the evening, especially during dim conditions. People are out at all hours of the day. Sometimes they're visible, wearing reflective stuff, sometimes they're not. And so we need to really keep our heads on a swivel, be looking in all corners of the roadway for people, and really act as a neighbor. You know, in this region, it takes everybody to look out for each other to help us get home safely, whether you're in a car, walking on foot, on a bike, etc. We really have to look out for each other.
All right, I'm here with Alex Carroll, the Complete Streets Manager here at the City of Alexandria. Alex, hello.
Hi.
And tell us a little bit about where we are today.
Yeah, so we are standing at the corner of Duke Street and South Henry Street, which is one portion of the Route 1 or Richmond Highway corridor. The other portion is South Patrick Street, just over here. And so this is one of our high crash intersections here in the city.
And the city is planning to put some resources behind making this a safer and more pedestrian-friendly intersection. Is that right?
That's right. So we received technical assistance support from COG through the Regional Roadway Safety Program to study this intersection, identify what the issues were, and then develop some options for improvements. We then used the results of that study to apply for state funding to support design and construction.
So you would think this is a heavily trafficked intersection. Like you said, it's at Route 1 in Old Town Alexandria. We've got entrance to the Beltway about half a mile down there. We've got Alfred Street Baptist Church, which is one of our largest churches in the region, but it doesn't get as much pedestrian traffic as one might think.
You would think that there would be more pedestrian activity here, and there certainly is a good amount, but not as much as you'd think, because a lot of folks actually avoid this intersection on foot when they can, because it's a pretty uncomfortable intersection to travel through, either on foot or by bike or by scooter. And so a lot of people just avoid it. It's just very heavily trafficked, very busy, uncomfortable intersection.
And for our drivers, there's lots of accidents here as well.
Yep, that's right. So between these two intersections, there have been over 70 crashes. About a quarter of those are injury crashes. We've also had a few severe injury crashes at these two intersections. So it's definitely something that's affecting both people walking, people biking, as well as people driving.
So over 70 crashes at this intersection alone. And Alexandria's done a lot of great work in this space. In this region last year, there were 117 pedestrian and bicyclist deaths, folks that, preventable tragedies. Alexandria had 0 last year.
Yes.
What kind of work have you been doing throughout the city to keep pedestrians safe?
Yeah, so we have a very robust Complete Streets and Vision Zero program here in the city, and we've been doing work all over our community to make it easier and safer for people to walk and bike and access transit. So we've reduced speed limits. We have reassessed how our corridors are designed to make them safer to walk along and to cross and to bike on. So these multi-lane roadways that are really overbuilt for the conditions, we're starting to reassess those and think how we can make them more pedestrian and cyclist friendly. We've also done a lot of short-term improvements, like installing no turn on red restrictions in key areas, installing leading pedestrian intervals to give people walking a head start at signalized intersections. So, all of these treatments together, cumulatively over many years, has certainly had an impact.
At COG, we talk a lot about the intersectionality of the topics that we work on. And when we go just a couple blocks away, I suspect we're going to see a lot of folks spending their hard-earned money here in Old Town Alexandria, tourism dollars, and that helps the tax base, which is one of the popular topics here in Alexandria. How do you diversify that tax base so when you make your roadway safer and more pedestrian and bicycle friendly, you get more folks visiting and spending money at restaurants and stores?
That's right. We're trying to design our streets to be places that people go to rather than through.
As we've learned today, improving roadway safety really requires an all-hands-on-deck approach. We've got to continue to educate the public on this issue. We have to enforce the safety laws on our books, and we need to engineer more safe and walkable communities. Visit our website for more information and to help us spread the word and push for progress.